Welcome to the Congressional Connection. I'm Congressman Sander Levin. We're going to sit around the table here today and talk about a very important subject as part of our effort to communicate in all ways about the issues that matter to the people of our state, of our district, and our country. And today we're going to focus on the importance of extending unemployment insurance. Long-term unemployment is twice as high as it was during the last recession. At the end of last year, there were 1.4 million long-term unemployed Americans. 1.3 million Americans, 72,000 in Michigan, are estimated to exhaust their unemployment insurance in these months. So here we are today with two very distinguished people who know a lot about this subject. One is Chris Owens, and Chris is the Executive Director, right, of the National Employment Law Project, NELP.
NELP.
And I think a lot of us need help. Maybe that's why you named it. And you lead an extraordinary policy staff of about 20 people.
Correct.
And you try to do some cutting research and education on issues that support the unemployed, long-term unemployed, low-wage people, those who are immigrants and other disadvantaged workers. And you're a lawyer.
I am.
I won't say what law school you went to since it wasn't in Michigan.
It wasn't.
You know Michigan
but
well.
I have relatives who went to Michigan Law School.
And you know Michigan very, very well. And then Chad Stone, we were talking about real names, and Chad's kind of a nickname, right?
That's right.
But Chad is the chief economist at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. It's a term we find difficult to remember.
That's right. You can't make a joke about it.
And we ask Bob Greenstein, the head of it, founder, why that? But it actually describes very well what you do, right? The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, where you specialize in economic analysis of budget and policy issues. So welcome to both of you. And I think everyone who will be listening here is going to be well informed about what is really, I think, a crisis. Let's spend just a couple minutes talking about the purpose of unemployment comp. Chris, you want to say just a word about why we have it?
Sure. Well, unemployment compensation is something people work for. They earn it. They go to work, there's a payroll tax that's assessed against their wages, and when they're out of work, they're entitled to get unemployment insurance. We have unemployment insurance for two reasons. One is to provide help to workers who have lost their jobs, generally through no fault of their own, to help keep them above the poverty level, help them support their families, and help them have a cushion to fall back on while they look for another job that will support them and their families. But the other reason we have an unemployment system is to provide resources that we can pump back into the economy during times like this when, at least from a worker standpoint, the economy is in recession, and we need resources going into the economy to create jobs. And that's the role that the unemployment insurance system plays. We have a $40 billion trust fund. If we were to allocate $10 billion to extend unemployment benefits, that would be money that would be going to people who need the money, who'd spend the money, and that would help create jobs.
And so the regular program is 26 weeks.
26 weeks, right.
And as you say, people work for it.
Correct.
And there are taxes assessed.
That's right.
So now let's talk about the extension. And Chad, if you would describe what this is all about. We've been talking about extending unemployment benefits in this institution for many, many months.
Right.
So what's it all about? Okay,
the regular unemployment insurance benefits run for about 26 weeks in most states. And workers who continue to look for a job people who are looking for a job over that entire period and looking for a job but can't find one, after the 26 weeks, the regular benefits run out. Temporary extension of unemployment benefits would be a federally funded program that would provide an additional number of weeks to people who've exhausted their regular benefits.
There is money in a trust fund federally to help pay for this, is there not?
Well, there's typically the kind of program we're talking about now, at the beginning of a recession or in the middle of a recession, is frequently funded out of the regular funds. There is some trust fund money that it's a little tricky how it all works.
Yeah.
But we think of it as being part of the stimulus package, where you get money into the economy to support people's consumption, as Chris said, and that prevents the recession from getting worse. And that can be funded out of a trust fund or not. It has the same effect.
So in previous recessions, there's been an extension, has there not? I remember arguing about this
Right.
with previous administrations. And sometimes we finally, if we were in the majority, passed it quickly. If we were in the minority, it took a struggle. Sometimes it came too late. But in previous recessions, there's been often an extension.
That's correct.
There's always been one.
Right. So what's the crisis now? Let's talk a bit about. By the way, just a few minutes ago, talked to someone at the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and I asked how many people were on the bench. That's the lingo, meaning looking for work. And everybody should remember, unemployment comp is for people who are unemployed through no fault of their own and who are looking for work. And the business agent Joe Abdu told me 1,300 were on the bench, meaning unemployed, looking for work. And the number would be even higher if there weren't lots of people who had to leave Michigan and look for work in some places that aren't quite as hard hit, though now the whole nation is.
That's right.
So let's talk a bit more about this struggle over extending unemployment comp benefits. Chris, why are we having so much trouble, do you think?
I'm not really certain why we're having so much trouble. One of the problems in past downturns, the most recent one in 2001, the recession, the way that recessions are measured is sort of after the fact. The economists figure out that we've had 2 quarters of negative growth, and then they declare we've already had a recession. And so what typically happens is that the President and Congress have waited until the recession is well underway before extending unemployment benefits, which really significantly limits the kind of stimulus impact. It's like fixing the dikes after the flood. Mm-hmm. And so we and others have been advocating for going ahead now and extending benefits. We know that unemployment is rising. Just today, the Labor Department announced that last week there were 400,000 new claims for unemployment insurance benefits, and that
400,000.
400,000, which is extraordinarily high
compared to some of the previous. It's the highest in
many years. Immediately after Hurricane Katrina, the numbers were up above 350,000, 360,000, and that was the worst natural disaster certainly in decades, maybe in the nation's history. But last week we were at 400,000. We have close to 3 million people who have been unemployed for a while and are continuing to collect benefits. That's up by 500,000 people in just 1 year. And so the situation for workers is really dire. I mean, you mentioned Michigan. Michigan has lost 24,000 construction jobs in the last 2 years and 67,000 manufacturing jobs. Its unemployment rate has been above 7% for over a year. But Michigan is not alone. Other states are now catching up. And so we have a crisis for workers, and if we continue to wait before we pass an extension, the crisis for them is only going to worsen, and the impact on the economy is only going to worsen.
So let me bring the debate we've been having here and the position of the White House right to this table and ask you to respond. We had tried in the House, and we have a majority now, to extend benefits. Essentially, we were told it could not pass the Senate. We couldn't get 60 votes. And the President would veto it because unemployment nationally was under 5%, and we've never extended unemployment comp benefits when the unemployment rate has been that low.